Hey guys, I know it's been a while, but I wanted to change the course of the podcast a little bit. We got into some stuff. It was more whining, I think, and political discourse. And what I have today and the future of the show is going to be on remedy, your remedy as a person that exists in this republic, what you can do to hold people accountable, how you can enforce your rights. And we've generally abdicated that to our lawyers, right? Well, that's our guest today specializes in teaching you how to enforce your power. And he created a course called Jurisdictionary, and I'd like to thank you, Dr. Frederick Graves, for coming on with me and taking some of your valuable time to share with the audience today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
So, Doctor, want to give us a little history or a little backstory about you, and then we can jump into it.
Well, let's see. I tended bar, ran a fishing boat, swung a hammer. What didn't I do before I met a fellow? I built a 33-foot double-ended sailboat, 2 masts, and I was taking it up to Maine. And in New Jersey, I went into an inlet and I met another young fellow who was building a sailboat, and we got to be friends. He went on to law school and then kept after me and kept after me and kept after me. And he said, you got to at least take the LSAT. So I took it and scored very, very well. Then he said, you got to apply to a law school. I said, I'll tell you what, Jim, I'll apply to one law school, one. If they accept me, okay. And it was Stetson College of Law in Florida, named after the hat or what, I don't know, maybe. But they should never have done it.
They didn't realize they were unleashing a monster on their profession.
They made a mistake. So anyway, hopefully we'll continue to reach more and more and more and more people, and they'll begin to understand that that lawyers that do cases, I'd like to clarify that real quickly. Lawyers that write wills, they're not in competition with anybody. The best they can do is write a good will, or if they help you buy a property or help you sell a property. Those kinds of lawyers, most of the ones I've met are good people. They do a good job. They try their best. But lawyers who fight in court, not all of them, but too many of them will lie and cheat and steal. And when they lie and cheat and steal because they want to win, and even when they cheat their own client by not settling when they could have settled, or not telling their client now is a good time to settle, and various other things they'll do to just keep the clock running. I decided back in 1997 that I'd create a course and try to help at least a few people to understand how this thing works. And that's where it got started. And here we are 25 years later, and it's getting to be very popular because people are discovering that, by golly, I don't have to have a lawyer. And may I say that if you can afford a lawyer and control the lawyer, that's 2 things. 1, you can afford one, and 2, you can control the lawyer. It might be a good idea to have one, but if you can't afford one, or you end up paying one and you can't control the lawyer, I get too many emails and people calling me and saying, well, I gave this lawyer $100,000. They mortgaged the home. And the lawyer didn't do what should have been done. And they say, I wish I'd found your course years ago. So apparently what this is all turning out to be is something that gives the American people and people in other nations where it's being used around the world, actually, the knowledge they need to control judges, to control their school board, to control their city council, to control anybody, because you have the right to take people to court. It was It all began with this guy named Moses. And here we are today. But for the first time in the history of the world, people have the ability to research the law online without going to a law library and getting lost in all the books and not knowing where to turn, because you can just use your cell phone to find out what the law is. That's the easy part. And then to understand what is procedure, what are pleadings, what are motions, what are hearings, when do you say objection, Your Honor, hearsay? It turns out that's really, really easy to learn. And so the course.
Well, you break it down really well, and there is a lot to it. And, going into court without knowing the rules, or even sending your lawyer into court without knowing what he's supposed to be doing. I mean, you're really hanging yourself out there. And that's this course. That's what I love about it, is that you break it down. You go, the evidence section is phenomenal, because you really, I was, the whole time I was going through the evidence section, I was thinking about different court cases, stuff that you've seen on TV, and you're like, oh my God, a lot of this stuff isn't admissible, or guys should have been objecting to it, stuff like that. And how do you have any idea unless you've been to law school? And even then, it seems like a lot of lawyers don't understand a lot of it, or they just don't care about it.
If we had a nonprofit and we had lots and lots and lots of money, we could hire lots and lots and lots of people. It'd be fun to go into the prisons. It'd break your heart, but go into the prisons and look at just look at any particular group and go look at their record and find out that they're in prison because their lawyer dropped the ball.
Right.
And like you said just a moment ago, like objections. I've known lawyers that didn't want to object because they didn't want to upset the judge, because they figured they had to appear in front of that judge again next week. And somehow they thought by having a judge like them, that would help them win more cases. It's ignorant. And yet that's how a lot of lawyers think. And this course, disabuses people of that notion. And you begin to realize, as you and I talked about a few moments ago, it's like those of your friends listening who know what a piston is and what a wrist pin is, and what a connecting rod is.
Right.
Okay. If you put the piston in and you put the connecting rod in and you forget to put in the wrist pin, it doesn't work. So as you, right, it won't work.
No.
And then there's these little rings, little clips you put in to hold the wrist pin in place so it doesn't go bang scratching the cylinder wall.
Yeah.
But what it comes down to, and why I think course is so easy for people to understand, is that I'd actually been practicing for 10 years and a light came on. And the light that came on was when I realized that this has all been a huge smokescreen from the beginning of time. You read Charles Dickens' books. Hard Times is one of my favorites, and there's all these cases that Dickens talks about where lawyers took advantage of people who didn't have any idea what was going on. And what just blew my mind completely in 1997 was when I realized that it's easy. It's a cakewalk. It's just a matter of understanding that certain things go together in a certain way. And a lot of people say, well, they got the language, it's too hard to learn the language. That's not true.
No.
There are very few words that you have to learn that you never heard of before, like deposition or interrogatory. There really aren't that very many. But the process is no more complicated than assembling take it back, than assembling an engine the way engines were back in the 50s, you see, when you had a distributor and you had points and condensers, and it was really pretty easy.
Right.
But this is just a matter of assembling the parts and making your argument in writing. It's just tremendous. And I get to do it. I wake up each morning, I say, wow, I get to do this again today. It's terrific.
Well, It's, and how to move the court. That's, because even when guys kind of figure out how to write some motions and pleadings and then never move the court to act on them, stuff like that, like that, it's even if you had part of it, you didn't have all of it, this is great because it's kind of an all encompassing, deal. And that's, you would have to go, I don't know of any other course like this. I've never seen one. This combined with, well, even the resources in here, like the Google Scholar and stuff, on how to look at the case law, if you don't have access to American jurisprudence and stuff, like there's just a ton of info in it. It's been very eye-opening for me.
Well, it's like one of these testimonials was a fellow who was facing a 30-year prison term, and he couldn't afford a lawyer. And people that end up with a public defender, I've known other lawyers that call public defenders public pretenders. That's sorry, but that's what we talk about in the office, because they just want to get you to cop a plea, and they if you don't want to spend 30 years in jail, you better to spend 10 years in jail. I don't get that. But there are too many people who are in jail or lost their home or lost their business, or God forbid, I can't tell you how many times I get calls and emails from people who've lost their children because somebody lied about them. It's a simple case of file an action for slander or libel and make these people answer the question, who said I beat my children? Where were they that they said there are people who will put out cigars on children's legs.
Right.
I had a judge tell me about that one time. I was coming out of a hearing, and he said, "Please sit down." I closed the door, sit down. I was in trouble. And he said, I just want to tell you that the case just before you came in here was about a grandfather thought it was fun to put out cigars on his granddaughter's legs. So there are people who probably should have their children taken away, but there are also thousands of people who are having their children taken away because somebody lied about it.
Right.
Or people that are losing their home and they made the payments, or the people, the bank or the company that's suing them doesn't even have the mortgage. Shouldn't be suing them, but they don't know any better. And so
it's like one of the derivative companies trying to trying to foreclose on it or something. Yeah.
So we're helping literally tens of thousands of people. I just want to be able to help a few million people. And it's not just about me making more money. It's about giving the people this power that they don't know they have. And we talked about that earlier.
Right.
Tell me what you think about what we talked about.
Well, it's the only way. You have a vote, right? And everybody, I think, everybody focuses on the vote because that's you don't have to learn anything to vote, right? You can, even if you can't read or write, you could kind of mark the X or a check mark or, stay in the little egg shape on the piece of paper. But you don't get any remedy from that. You just elect, the next guy that gets to steal from you. So, you might as well, you don't even get kickbacks from them. You're just the only way to actually hold them accountable, and which makes it not matter who's in office. If you know how to hold them accountable, if you know how to enforce your rights and stand up for the rights that you have, that were granted to you by God, that the Constitution recognizes, then it really doesn't matter who's in office, because you can hold those people accountable, and you can do it legally, and you can hold them accountable where it has the force of law, where the sheriff will go out if they don't comply with your order, and that's important, because that gives you the same power that they have.
It does. And if you think about it, people say, well, I know my rights. Or we have people that there are groups of people, they study the Constitution. And I'm all for that. There's nothing wrong with that. But you remember that if you don't know how to enforce your rights, and you don't have $50,000 to hire a lawyer and hope hope that he'll do what needs to be done, then do you really have any rights? You know, a fellow that I ran a fishing boat. I didn't make that much money running a fishing boat out of Key West. I ran one out of Savannah, Georgia for a while. I didn't know what it was like to have $500. $500. Who has $500? And if I'd needed to enforce my rights back then, good luck for me. There was just no way. And even before that, I taught night school for a while. I built things. I built boxes and shelving and stuff for people, custom shelving, and just had my little old truck that I paid $400 for and my tools. And that was who I was. And so if I had a legal problem, what was I going to do? These people, these attorneys on television that say, they'll take your case and you don't pay unless they win. They're not interested in anything that's not going to make them $100,000. So the case has got to be worth $300,000.
Right.
And they're not going to take that lady's case when she came home from work and her baby was gone. Right. They're not going to take that. They don't take cases like that. They don't take foreclosure cases on a consignment basis. They want to be paid up front. Right. So 4 out of 5 people, and it's more than that actually, according to the American Bar Associations, it's something like 82% of the American public cannot afford a lawyer. So, here you go.
For more than 10 minutes anyways. Yeah, well, this is, your course is the price of a half an hour of most lawyers now. So there's a lot of value in it because you're literally paying for 30 minutes of a lawyer's time, and all they would go through in that time is a few basic things and tell you that, you had to come down to the office for a little further discussion so they could milk you some more. And back to what you were saying about the public pretenders. I mean, I was the foreman on a jury last year, and the public defender and the DA were going to lunch together, and the poor guy in the handcuffs in the back had no idea. And it was pretty awful.
Right. And then people, watch television, they see somebody that says, objection, Your Honor. And the judge says, overruled, and that's it. And they don't renew the objection. And objections are very powerful, and yet they're extremely easy to learn. I mean, it's really a piece of cake. Let me just pop one up here if that would be helpful to people. Okay, here we'll go to, this is what the course looks like when you're signed in. Got the main menu over here, and reference menu, contents menu, extras menu. So I'll click the main menu, then I'll scroll down here to courtroom objections. And I like these little cartoons, makes it seem like it's more fun. And we'll go over here to contents, and let's see, here's one. Let's try, I like this one. Counsel testifying. Okay. Worst form of abuse of the competence rule occurs when lawyers testify to unfairly get facts into evidence. It's cheating. Don't allow it. Okay.
Are you doing it on your screen? Because I'm not seeing it.
You don't see it on my screen?
Oh no, we have this problem again. No, I don't.
No, that's all right. I'll go back. It's all right. Here. Back to this, okay?
Yeah, I didn't see.
Oh, all right. I know what happened. Okay. Well, anyway, that's what it is. And people just knowing how to object wins cases.
Right.
I've done it over and over and over again. And it's not hard to do. You have to pay attention. And when the lawyer on the other side asks the nurse, well, Miss So-and-so, what was the lawyer thinking? Objection, calls for speculation. You're right out of your chair. You never let the person speak. Calls for speculation. One good TV show I like that does it fairly well is Bull. When his lawyer, he'll make an objection, say what it is. Objection, calls for speculation. Objection, hearsay. Objection, ask and answer. Objection, badgering. Just knowing how to keep that lawyer on the other side from getting evidence in that the rules say that evidence must not come in. It's against the rules. Knowing how to keep bad evidence out, that alone wins cases, and it's something you can learn in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
What am I missing here?
Well,
Do
and
the math.
judicial notice, right? So even if you're getting beat up on your objections, but you have the judge take judicial notice, then when you bounce it up to the appellate court, like that's on the record, you're making your record. So even if you get smacked around in the, I hear there's superior courts or, your local courts, like when if you make your record properly, which you teach how to do, then when you bounce it up to the appellate court, they have the record to look at. They can see what the local judge was doing wrong, how they weren't following the law, that you objected to these things, what evidence actually was admissible, stuff like that.
Right. And if you don't object and you try to go up on appeal, the appellate court says you didn't object, you didn't give, and it's basically giving the judge another opportunity to correct himself or herself. It's not the main thing, like we said, it's not rocket science. It's righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. That's the way life is. And when you learn how to do this, now you have power you never imagined that you would have. And they won't take your baby away because somebody lied about you. They won't be able to foreclose on your home. A company won't be able to come in and foreclose if they don't have the mortgage. If you don't have the mortgage, you don't have the power to foreclose. And if they come in and they have some kind of one of the worst things on earth, I think, is circumstantial evidence.
Right.
There are rules about circumstantial evidence, and yet it's abused. It's here. What time is it here? Here in where we are, it's already 10:30.
Right.
In the Eastern, I would say probably in the last hour and a half, in the states over here, circumstantial evidence has been abused hundreds of times already, and people are going to prison. All because they don't understand what these things are. That it's so, I don't know how to be any more enthusiastic about this. It just, I wake up and it just amazes me. I get to do this. I get to be the one to share this. And I really kind of hope somebody will come along and buy this whole business from me and take over, because I'm getting kind of old. But people need to know how to enforce your rights without a lawyer, or else you don't have any rights. They just take your children and that's it.
That's right.
It's not right. And you can vote for somebody else to take office come November, and they're still going to have your kid. Your kid's going to be in foster home, and we have this power. If you don't like the way the school board is doing things, or you don't like the way that the sheriff's office is handling something, take them to court. And here's how. It's real easy.
Right. Well, a lot of people too, they assume that, all these, that everybody in the government basically has, a jurisdiction or an authority over them. And, not only can you find out whether they do or not, but you can take them to court, and you can use discovery to prove, that you're not just getting trampled on, that you are the master of your public servants. And I love that idea, because that's been long forgotten, I think, by most people. They generally let themselves get trampled on, and you hear that, well, it's the law, I'm like, no, it's not. But if you think it is, it might as well be the law. If you can't enforce it, or you can't prove it's not the law, then it might as well be.
Well, then I get two people, like Louis Pasteur said, mediocrity knows nothing higher than itself. People allow themselves to fall into that category where they don't try to see above where they are now, because, for many people, it's too difficult. But because God let me create this course, it's no longer difficult. If you can read and write English, you can do this. Some people can't read and write English, and we could go to court and start a case about that against the school system. Why are too many people can't read and write English? But if you can read and write English, you can enforce your rights, and you don't have to pay a lawyer, or you don't have to mortgage the home or go into debt and hope to heaven that you've got a lawyer that's going to work for you. But it's time. The time has come, by golly. The time has come for people to understand that this is now possible that was never possible until 25 years ago. It
Right.
just never was possible before. Now it is. And so hopefully people will begin to realize that this is the future and that we don't have to allow the legal profession to run our world without our having any say so. And that having lawyers run the world without the public having any say so, that's got to go by the boards. We've got to get that out of here.
It hasn't done us very good so far, that's for sure. You know, I feel like as we've moved on as a country, you know, like as time has passed, more and more power went to the lawyers. And I think, you know, that, well, like we were talking about earlier, Benjamin Franklin was certainly terrified of that. You know, I think George Washington, you know, made it apparent that he knew, at least with party affiliations and stuff, that, you know, guys were going to be able to manipulate and sway people, and that, you know, the whole thing is, it's ignorance and it's our fault that we don't know. So this is an opportunity to educate yourself, and it's not hard the way it's written. And, you know, I like in the course too, you talk about like keeping it simple, not, you know, trying to be this spectacular orator, but, you know, keeping it simple, like sticking to the law and the facts and moving the court, you know, and using the rules of court. Like it's when you simplify it, you don't get lost in all the BS that often comes with this kind of stuff.
Well, it's, you know, and then we hear people, they say, well, you know, we've all been dumbed down. And I don't buy that.
Right.
Last time I checked, pretty much every little town that we visit when we're traveling around in our little motorhome, they have a public library. And nobody's hiding the books from you, you know, but to figure out how to do this by going to a law library and trying to figure out which one of those 2,000 books do I start or where do I start? It's not that you were dumbed down. It wasn't that anybody intentionally hid this from you. It's just that until the internet and until this course, which apparently has no peer, you didn't have the ability to not be dumbed down. You were stuck because there was nowhere to go to learn this. Now there is, and nobody's keeping it from you. It's right there on the internet. I mean, if they shut down the internet or they make me go off the internet, that's one thing. I don't think they will. We've been up for 25 years. I don't think they'll take me down anytime soon. God may take me out, but until then, this is here. And nobody's dumbing you down. Nobody's preventing anybody from learning this. And you don't have to learn a bunch of Latin words. You just have to have some common sense and be able to read and write English. And it's there for you. So what can I say? I don't know what else to say. I could go on, but it just seems like we could just get people to understand that you have rights and they are useless. They're just promises or empty promises. You know, if nobody abuses you, then you can go on, pat yourself on the back and say, wow, this is really cool. I have rights. But when you start saying something in a public forum, for example, that people don't like, they don't want to hear you say that, and they try to give you a hard time about it, then you can come back and say, no, excuse me, the First Amendment, I have a right to say these things. And if you're going to give me a hard time, I'll take you to court.
Right.
We'll get a judge to decide this because I know how to go to court. I know how to win in court, and I don't need a lawyer. It's not rocket science.
No, it's not, but it's important. And, you know, like you said, the information's at our fingertips now. You know, you don't have to go to a law library. You don't, you know, we have the internet. So there's endless case law. There's endless examples of motions and pleadings. There's great resources on Jurisdictionary. There's resources like, you know, like Rule of Law Radio. Like I love tuning in to those guys. And, you know, they talk about, you know, Randy Kelton talks about it all the time. He goes, hey, I can tell when someone's taken Jurisdictionary, you know, because they've already done the first 3 or 4 things that we're asking them about. They've already sent a tort letter, or whatever it is that, they're asking them to do. And that says a lot, because you're already 3 or 4 steps ahead. And I've heard some of the audio you used to do on that channel, Doc. It's pretty good. I think you post, you post some of that stuff to the Telegram every once in a while.
Yep. So it's up to the American public, to let our light shine into the darkness. The darkness won't go away unless we shine a light into it. And I think children have a right to know this stuff. I keep dreaming that someday somebody will come along with the money to invest in the publishing corporation that would just make money hand over fist and sustain itself by bringing curricula into the school system and teaching our children, what's a deposition, what's the obligation of contract.
I can't imagine how vastly different life would be if you learned this, like say like 8th grade, or your freshman year of high school. If you started, this was like a civics class, and you started getting introduced, like your substantive rights class, or how to win in court. I mean, the course is already there, but like if you started learning this stuff in high school, it would be life changing. There was a supervisor candidate, or there is a supervisor candidate that was talking about wanting to get some legal education into schools. Was at a dinner for him a while back, and I thought that was an interesting, topic. It was definitely rare. It was encouraging. I don't know about other things I've seen him say since, but it was kind of refreshing to hear someone say something like that. Not that a county supervisor has power to get anything into a school, but at least that thinking was there. So it's I'm going to have a description, or a link to the class in the description bar below the videos. That way guys can click on them. You guys can check it out. It's invaluable. It's a half an hour of a lawyer's time. And it's probably the single most valuable thing you can do to understand how to conduct yourself, how to move the court. There's videos, there's a lot of reading, and there's quizzes at the end of it, so you can you're getting checked off on if you actually absorbed it or not. I take notes. I do it kind of slowly and go through it, because that's how I like to go. I like to be thorough on stuff, and I'll take a few notes and then chug along and do a couple chapters at a time. But there's, you're absorbing a lot because it's easy to understand. That's the nice part. If you could get through a paragraph and then your brain's burning it, that's one thing. But, you seems like you spent a lot of time breaking it down and making it easy for people to understand. I definitely appreciate that.
Well, like you said when we first started, there are people who want to complain, find fault, bitch, moan, and I complain about weeds in my yard, and no matter how much I complain, they do not go away. And I think what you were saying earlier to your people that know about you, it's time to start, put on our big boy pants. And if you don't like what's happening in this country, here's the power you need to make people listen to you, to be able to call witnesses, to put in documents, to literally force judges to do what's right. And to me, it seemed like if more and more people would tell this story and promote this mission, we'd turn this country around in a generation. I won't be here to see it, but in a generation, we'd turn this country around.
I agree. I think if a handful of people in each county in the country figured this out and started enforcing their rights, they would have, municipalities would have to take a step back and say, we're getting hammered here. I think their insurance companies would force them to do that. There's a lot of You can follow the money on everything, right?
Well, true that, true. And I just, it's like George Washington had a dream, and Rosa Parks no longer sits on the back of the bus. That's not because people walked across the bridge. It's because somebody went to court.
Right.
And you have this power to change the law without waiting to put your, your vote in the ballot box. And if we can just get more and more people to see that this is your power. You don't like the way things are going. Your neighbor, your neighbor's dog bit your kid and you got medical bills. Why should you pay those medical bills? It's your neighbor's dog. Your neighbor should pay the medical bills. And you will not find a lawyer to take that case for free.
Right.
They will not take it. There's not enough money involved, but you can do it. And automobile accidents and almost anything that you can think of where you've been damaged, you don't have to let people kick sand in your face anymore. Here's the answer.
Yeah, well, that was the option. It was, getting sand kicked in your face or getting, just bled out by a lawyer, so there's, those are bad options. I don't like those options anyways, and
No.
this is a great way to find remedy. If bitching fixed anything, my first couple episodes would have fixed the world, Doc. So the whole country's bitching right now, and that it doesn't change anything, doesn't fix anything. So it's time to go another route. It's time to go the real route, the route that our founders left us to enforce our rights. The one that they expected us to use that very few use or use effectively. So,
well, I'll put it this way: a good person who would learn this course, doesn't take long, a long weekend, you can learn almost all of it, but a good person can turn a bad person inside out. Just turn them inside out, because the rules are fair, they're powerful, they favor the little guy, they do not favor bad people. The only time the rules favor bad people is when the good guy has no idea how to stop the lawyer on the other side from cheating. But once you learn these very simple principles, as I say, nobody will kick sand in your face ever again and get away with it.
Yep. No, it's true. And I got to thank you for your time, Doc. I also want to say happy birthday. I know it was just your birthday this week.
Yeah.
Looking good at 50 here. And
oh my, oh gosh. Yeah. All right.
But thanks for coming on.
Talk to the hand. Thank you. Have a wonderful time, and urge people to do this for themselves. It's to their benefit.
I agree. I think, guys, the link to Jurisdictionary is going to be in the description box of all these videos on whatever platform they get posted on, whether it's YouTube or Rumble, and check it out. Sign up for the course. You're going to love it. It gives you the opportunity to free yourself, for the price of half an hour of a lawyer. Dr. Graves, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Look forward to doing this again in the future.
Outstanding.
Take care.